Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. Also, check our Facebook page, facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, and Radio Public. Also, watch the interview on YouTube as well, too, and subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on YouTube and take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. We're here with a very wonderful gentleman who's been in the teaching business for quite a number of decades. He's the author of Enhancing a High-Performing School Culture and Climate and School Climate and Culture Vis-a-Vis Student Learning, published by Rowman and Littlefield. He was a retired Ohio School Superintendent and Assistant Professor Emeritus at University of West Georgia. He's also spent time in West Virginia. And he also taught German and Social Studies in Ohio and Kentucky. Spent 3 years in the 82nd Airborne Division. And he's written some books and talks about some of the things like human relations and low test scores. This is something that's been happening in America, and he's going to talk more about it, which is like, hard knocks and lives of principle and everything else. So he's going to put it on in a nutshell. And ladies and gentlemen, live from the beautiful South, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Clete Bulach. Dr. Clete, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, pleasure interacting with you up there in North Dakota, Mike.
Oh, it's very beautiful. Thank you. So you're the author of Enhancing a High-Performing School Culture and Climate and Culture Vis-a-Vis Student Learning, published by Rowman and Littlefield. You're a retired Ohio School Superintendent and Assistant Professor Emeritus at University of West Virginia. And you're also here to talk about some things like the book, human relations, and what to do about the system, test scores, and everything. But before we get into all that, tell us how you started.
Tell us what? How?
Tell us how you got started in your quest for education.
Oh, well, I was a country boy. Grew up on a farm with 6 other brothers and sisters, poor. Never took a book home. Never studied any academic course. I think I had 1 English course and 1 history course, and everything else was nothing. I played hooky, went fishing. I had no interest in academia whatsoever. I was going to do like everybody else did out there close to Cincinnati. I was going to buy a farm, get married, raise kids, work in a factory, and that was it. But life changed. I went into the military, got into the 82nd Airborne and became a ballistic meteorologist. And the next thing I knew, I was dating this woman whom I knew would never live on a farm, and I decided to go to the university. Of course, I couldn't get in because I didn't have any academic courses whatsoever. My first semester was a disaster, but after that, I was on the dean's list, and I eventually got my master's and doctorate. And so here I am, many years later. The journey has been pull up your boots and get to work.
It sounds like a really good piece of advice, and you also wrote a couple of books as well too. So tell us how you got inspired to write those books.
Well, toward the end of my career as a professor, I was big on character education. And on my website, there is a survey that measures character behavior of kids on 26 character traits. It's free. There are other surveys there that are free on school climate and culture, on leadership behavior, on openness and trust, and bullying behavior. All of those surveys are free. But because I had this character education thing, the state of West Virginia passed a law in 2002 that every school district in the state would have character education in their schools. So they let out a contract for somebody to go around and evaluate whether it was there. And I thought, wow, how would you do that? And I came up with a plan and a budget, and I submitted the bid, and I was the only bidder.
Really?
If I had put in a bid for 2 million, I would have gotten it. I didn't put in a bid for 2 million, but it was a pretty good figure. And in 2002, I bought an RV, and for 5 months, I did nothing but drive around the hills and valleys and mountains of West Virginia and interview students and children, teachers, about what they liked about their school, what they liked about their character ed program, and what they didn't like. And after that was all over, I thought, wow, most kids don't like to go to school. There are a lot of teachers who don't like being a teacher.
Mm.
How would you create a school where kids like to go to school?
Mm-hmm.
Where teachers didn't quit in years 3 to 5? How would you create that school? So I wrote the books. Book number 1 is how to create the school. Book number 2 is, once you've created it, how do you enhance it? And it's nothing about curriculum at all. My books have nothing to do with curriculum or what you teach. It's how people are treated. It's human relations.
Mm-hmm.
How the administration treat the teachers, how the teachers treat the students, how the students treat each other. It's all about human relations. That's what the 2 books are all about. And in many ways, the 2 books are for any leader, no matter what you're leading. It doesn't have to be a school. One of my favorite techniques as a leader, and I've used it many times, when I became a principal, when I was a teacher, I went to the students and I said, what do you expect of me as your teacher? What do you expect of me as your principal? What do you expect of me as your superintendent? What do you expect of me as your college professor? And they look at me and say, you want us to tell you what we expect? And I said, yeah, I want to know. And I'd give them 3 by 5 cards. And I said, if you want more cards, I'll give them to you. But write one expectation on each card. So I would get these cards and I would sort them into common piles when I was a teacher. That would be 75 to 100 card times 3. But it was easy to sort them into common piles. And I would paraphrase what was in each pile, and I'd go back to them and I'd say, this is what you expect me to do. I says, I think I can meet your expectations.
Mm.
If there was an expectation that I didn't think I could meet because of board regulations or state laws or whatever, I would explain to them why I couldn't meet that expectation. But what I did was I established a relationship with my students. I'm here to serve. I care about you. I'm listening to you. I'm open to you. Okay. So the relationship versus what traditionally happens in a classroom or in a school system or as a superintendent is, teacher goes in and says, all right, guys, listen up. This is what I expect you to do. If you're here to learn, I'm here to teach. We're going to get along just fine. If you don't want to learn, that's your problem. So you understand the difference in that relationship between the teachers and the students. The same thing is true as a principal. What do you expect of me as your principal? I'm here to serve. I'm here to listen to you. I care about you. I want to do a good job. I am a servant leader. What happens in most school systems, and not just in school systems, but in organizations all across the country, and particularly for our stupid politicians. I mean, if you look at what's going on in Washington, self-serving people is what comes across. People tend to come across as self-serving. Nancy Pelosi is the most self-serving woman I've ever seen. And Bernie Sanders and on with politicians that I could describe that I think are self-serving. They've been there for 40 years, 50 years. They're supposed to serve the people of the United States. They're there to serve themselves. And many teachers come across as self-serving. And that's when I asked the students, what do you like about your schools? They said, the teachers. What don't you like about your school? The teachers. Well, tell me about that. He says, well, some of these teachers care about us. They want to help us learn, and they are here to help us. Then you've got these other teachers, and they look at us. They come in with their cup of coffee and prop their feet up on the table, and they say, all right, guys, if you're here to learn, I'm here to teach. We're going to get along just fine. They don't care about us. All they want is their paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
On and on. The theme throughout my 2 books is servant leadership. And there is an outfit in Indianapolis that deals with servant leadership. That's their whole theme. And how do you come across as a servant leader? Because I thought I was a servant leader when I was a principal and superintendent, but I found out that I was coming across as self-serving. People said, oh, that Bulach, he's got his doctorate degree. He's just here for 3 years. He won't be here long till he moves on to the next position. So I didn't come across as a servant leader. But this expectations diagnosis, what do you expect of me? And so forth. That was one technique. And then the other technique I used at the end of each school year, I went to the students and teachers and I said, I called it force field analysis. And now you can do this, Mike, and all of your listeners out there can do this. How do you get good feedback on how you're coming across? Difficult, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. I think you kind of put me on the spot with this feedback and everything, and I'll just write that down, and maybe you can just we give you a copy, and maybe they can give feedback. But this is really, really interesting as well too, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. Also, check our Facebook page, facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, and Radio Public. Also, watch the interview on YouTube as well, too. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on YouTube and take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. We're here with Dr. Clete Bulach, the author of numerous articles in education journals and co-author of 2 books, School Climate and Culture, Vis-a-Vis Student Learning, and Keys of Collaborative Problem Solving and Responsibility. The second book, Enhancing a High-Performing School Culture and Climate, New Insights for Improving Schools. And, also retired Ohio School Superintendent, Assistant Professor Emeritus at University of West Georgia as well, too. And, getting to part about expectations, and I think you just laid this on the line. What are some of the common expectations that students wrote on there, and what are some of the most unusual or the most challenging expectations that you've seen students write on these cards?
Well, mostly when they tell you that here's one expectation that the teachers always wrote. If someone comes in late after they're supposed to check in, don't berate the entire faculty about that. Go to the person who's coming in late. And in chapter 2 in book number 2, Enhancing School Culture and Climate, dealt with conflict management. Okay. Mm-hmm. So conflict management, when someone comes in late routinely, you have to deal with it. So there are 5 conflict management styles, and there are 4 ways to avoid a conflict. One of the methods I used with that person who comes in late is called the broken record. Okay. Person comes in, check-in is 7:15. They come in at 7:20. I go up to them and I say, check-in is 7:15. But boss, you don't understand. Check-in is 7:15. You, boss, check-in 7:15. No matter what they said, I said check in 7:15, broken record. By the time I said it the fifth time, they stopped. So I didn't allow them to suck me into their argument or whatever. With my kids, curfew was 12 o'clock. You got the keys to the car, you be home by 12 o'clock. If they came home at 12:15, I said, curfew's 12 o'clock. It's 12:15. That can't happen. But Dad, you don't understand. Curfew's 12 o'clock. Dad, curfew's 12 o'clock. Dad, curfew's 12 o'clock. Dad, curfew's 12 o'clock. You broken record it. You know, if you let them suck you in, it just goes on and on and on. That's one of the 4 ways to avoid conflict. There are 3 other. I don't know where you want to go with the rest of this interview, Mike, but
I think that's rather interesting. Let's talk about the 3 of them as well, too, since, you know, we have so much conflict going in the United States, and many people do not know how to handle conflict. So if you want to bring on the 3, go right ahead.
Well, there are 5 conflict management styles. There's the competitive, the cooperative, the collaborative, the accommodating, and the avoidance. 5 styles. Trump prefers conflict or competitive. Okay. Obama used avoidance a lot. Anyway, each of the styles has a win and a loss. Competitive says, I win, you lose. I'm taking you on. So that's Trump's probably most preferred style, although he uses all of the others as well. But when it comes to the news media, it's I win, you lose. When it comes to if you think back on the run up to the election when he became the leading candidate, he beat them all, didn't he?
I noticed that. I noticed it. And I also had seen it with Hillary Clinton as well, too. They just get into like, you know, a shouting match and everything. And what recommendation would you give President Trump when conflicts arise? You know, you talked about his preferred method, but what method would you rather see President Trump use?
There are times when he needs to avoid, and he seldom avoids conflict. There are 3 other. I gave you the broken record. Okay. Okay. Here's the other 3 ways to avoid a conflict. You do something wrong, and somebody accuses you of it, and you say, "Oh, yeah, that was stupid. I should never have done that." It's called negative assertion. You assert that you did something stupid. The other one is negative inquiry. You do something stupid and somebody accuses you of it, and you say, "Oh, yeah, what could I have done that would have made that better?" Negative inquiry. He needs to use those 2 more, because he does stick his foot in his mouth sometimes, and he does do some stupid thing. The other one is fogging. I don't know where that word came from. I attended a conflict management seminar back in the 80s in Philadelphia, and those people talked about fogging. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I mean, people come up to you and they will say something to you that hurts. Maybe it's your tie. Maybe it's what you just said. Maybe it's something else, but you've done something and somebody accuses you of doing something that they didn't like. And you say, well, you could say that. Fog it. You just
interesting.
Well, the other option when someone accuses you of doing something wrong, you say, what do you mean? And here you go. You're off to the races. The one thing President Trump did that has caused him more trouble than anything else was when he was accused of that conversation with that young reporter about how to treat women. Remember that one?
I do remember. Yes, he's had a history of treating women poorly, and that's been all over the media. And of course, you know, we're not going to expound on it, but at least we're getting an idea. So go ahead.
So if he had used negative inquiry or negative assertion or fogging for that instead of saying, and what he did was he says, where did you get that? And
Mm-hmm.
off to the races it went. I mean, for years. And he's still being accused of, and I don't really think he is negative because many of his key people are women that,
Interesting.
that he has hired who are in key positions, and he treats them like they're saints.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, he has not learned how to avoid a conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you think of Obama, for example, he was competitive too. He was very competitive. I win, you lose.
Right.
Collaborative, he was not. Collaborative is win-win. You get together with the people and you work with them. Trump likes to use that style. He's doing it with Kim Jong-un in North Korea. He's doing it with the people of China. He wants to come up with a win-win. Okay. Cooperation is lose-lose, which is the most common collective bargaining type. You get two people come together, management and the employees. Each has their list of what they want. And I taught collective bargaining, and I was the chief negotiator for 14 years for the school board. So I would come to my table with the teachers, and I'd have my list of 20 items, and they'd come with their list of 20 items. And I would say, tell you what, if you'll get rid of this, I'll get rid of this. So it's a lose-lose. But in the end, you get an agreement. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's cooperation. That's cooperative style. Accommodation is lose-win. Obama's style in foreign relations was accommodation.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that.
If you look at the Paris Climate Accord, he gave the ship away. If you look at the Bo Bergdahl deal, one prisoner for 5 of their. If you look at Cuba, what did we get out of that? If you look at giving Iraq $1.5 million, and when you look at Iraq where they got Iran, $400,000 to release that one person, he gave the ship away every time with foreign relations.
Or with the Iran deal as well too. They let him have the nuclear agreement. It's like, okay.
Yeah. That was another accommodation.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And of course, too, there's another president I was going to mention too with Reagan. Like his dealing with conflict, or sometimes he'll forget. Say, "Oh yeah, did I just say that?" That's what made me think of it too. It's like Reagan is one of my favorites. Did I just say that? Like a forgetting type. So I don't know what your thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, Reagan was a great accommodator. He was not afraid to accommodate people.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also a great collaborator. He always went for the win-win to try to get something where everybody felt like they got what they wanted. And Trump uses all the styles, but the one he uses the least is avoidance. He does not know how to avoid a conflict. He just takes it on.
like a charging bullets. It's like, I've seen in media, it's like, everybody knows that he's like a bullet through a china shop practically.
Yeah. I have suggested to other politicians that why doesn't Trump use the expectations diagnosis with the media? Bring the media in for a social and give everybody in the media 3 3x5 cards and say, what do you guys expect of me as your president? I'm listening to you. I care about you. I want a better relationship with you. I think it would change the whole relationship between the media and Trump. The way things are now, he's got a I win, you lose, you bastards, you hate me. I ain't going to ever give in to you. I'm going to use Twitter. I'm going to beat you, and on with his. The other technique that I used many, many times was a thing I call force field analysis.
Uh-huh.
Okay. How do you get good feedback? We talked about this earlier, but we didn't get into it. How do you get good feedback on how you're coming across? You, for example, you've got a great show up there in North Dakota. You've done some great stuff in your life. How do you come across? How do you know? Well, here's how you do that. Force field analysis was developed by Kurt Lewin, Kurtlewin, back in the 50s. Very detailed process on how do you identify what you've got going for you and what you could do that you could improve on. So how do you get that feedback? It's very easy. Mine is very simplified. It's described in book 1. And I used it many times. I would go to my students, I would go to my faculty, I'd say, Mr. Bulach is a good, whatever, principal, teacher, because. What are the forces for? What am I doing right? I'm a good teacher because, a good principal because, a good superintendent because, a good professor because. Okay. The second sentence is, Mr. Bulach, Dr. Bulach would be a better teacher, principal, superintendent if forces against. Very simple. You get these response. And when I handed this paper out to the people I wanted feedback from, I would leave and I'd identify a person to pick them all up because I wanted it to be confidential. If I stood there and watched them, I wouldn't get good feedback. So I left, and all of the teachers and all the students would fill out their 2 sentences and they would drop them in the box or drop them to a student that I had identified. And then I would get the forces for and the forces against. And I'd look at them and try to identify common themes of what I have done right and common themes of what I could do better.
Mm-hmm.
I would develop my plan for the next school year on how I could improve. Now, anybody out there listening can do this. Even parents can do this with their kids. Dad is good because dad would be better if. Mom is good because mom would be better if. I've done some marriage counseling, and the first thing I did was, okay, I want you to complete 2 sentences for me. My wife is good because my wife would be better if. Complete that for me. Good. Dad. My husband is good because my husband would be better if. Once I had that data, I knew what was wrong in that marriage. And so this very simple technique can be used in many, many different ways. You can use it with people who work for you.
That is interesting. I'm going to go ahead and apply that. That is just so fascinating. So we'll talk about power. We'll talk about relationships, and we'll get into test scores and a little bit more about your book, a little more about your history. Listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. Also, check our Facebook page, facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, and Anchor FM, and watch the YouTube version on the Mike Wagner Show channel, and take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. We're here with Dr. Clete Bulach, the author or co-author of numerous articles in educational journals, authored 2 books, School Climate and Culture of Vis-a-Vis Student Learning, Keys of Collaborative Problem Solving and Responsibility, and the second book that's out, Enhancing a High-Performing School Culture and Climate, New Insights for Improving Schools, and those are out right now. You can check those out. And, of course, we talked about management styles, communication styles, conflict, and everything. And let's talk about power as well, too. Like, what are the 5 freeing forms of power and 4 controlling forms of power?
Have we hit on that yet?
Um, I,
I don't think
I,
we have.
I, I don't think we did. We talked about conflict. We talked about communication. We talked about management. And of course, with power, I don't know if we hit upon that. Maybe you did, but maybe a little expanding as well, too, like the 5 freeing forms and 4 controlling forms of power.
Okay. Yeah, most people tend to use the controlling forms of power. You get hired in a position, whether you're a teacher or a radio broadcaster or whatever, you get hired for a position. With that position, you get position power. With position power, you get the ability to give rewards and punish. Now, all parents listening to this conversation, you have position power, either as the dad or as the mom. And with that, you get the ability to punish and reward your kids. And in some cases, your spouse, depending on what kind of marriage there is. My secret to a successful marriage has always been you tell your spouse, whether you're male or female, you tell your spouse, I'm the boss and you get what you want. Now, who's the boss?
Love it.
Okay. It's not exact. In any marriage, there is never a 50-50. Somebody always has, maybe it's 50.1, but somebody always has the final say. I'm the boss, you get what you want. Okay, that's the secret to a successful relationship, whether it's a marriage or whatever. But there's a fourth controlling form of power that's fascinating. Um, let's say you get hired to run a radio station. Okay, somebody hired you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that person gave you position power. The person who hired you is connection power. As long as they like you, you have connection power. As long as you have connection power, you have position power. As long as you have position power, you got reward and coercion power. What if you lose the connection? What if the person who hired you no longer likes you? You lose position power, right?
Mm-hmm.
The most common example I use in my book is a teacher sends a kid to the office for punishment, position power.
Mm-hmm.
And the principal doesn't do anything about it. What happens to the teacher's position power?
Down.
Yeah. The other most famous example, and it happens all the time, is a wife or a husband observes the kids doing something they don't like, and they say, you just wait till your dad comes home. You just wait till your mom comes home. And you tell them what the kid did. And whether it's the mom or the dad, if they say, well, see what was so wrong about that? I did that when I was a kid. What happens to the other person's power? Zilch. Yeah. So connection power, position power, reward and coercion power are closely integrated. Now, the 5 freeing forms of power, which is where any leader should go. The secret to being a successful leader is you give control to people, but you don't give it up. Well, how do you give control to people? Freeing forms of power do that. So here's the first one, information, which is what we're doing now.
Uh-huh.
You give people information and they listen to it and they say, that's fascinating. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to do that. So it's free, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then you come to the next one and it's expertise. Somebody demonstrates how to do something, which teachers do day in and day out across all the classrooms across the United States. But it happens in factories, it happens everywhere, golf courses, everywhere. People see you do something and they say, wow, I like the way you did that. I'm going to try that. And it happens on Facebook all the time with all the YouTube stuff that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Expertise power. You look at it and you say, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Free. Then you come to French and Raven back in the 50s came up with their typology of power, which was five forms of power. There were 3 freeing and 2 controlling. They called it referent power. I call it personality power.
Interesting.
Mike, you've got a good personality.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm sure people do things because they like you.
Mm-hmm. And I'm learning a lot from you too. So go ahead.
All you got to do is ask, right?
That's right.
You ask and they do it. They say, yeah, Mike, I'll do that for you. Free. It's free because they like you. When I do this presentation to teachers all about the 9 forms of power, I say, which one they use the most? Personality power is the one that most teachers use the most. If you get the kids to like you, things go a lot easier in the classroom. The more controlling a teacher is in a classroom, the more the kids hate them. They resist. They resist control. And if we have time, we'll talk about life's 5 basic needs, one of which is control. Okay, and we can end on that if you want. Mm-hmm. The next form of power is not written anywhere in any of the books. I'm the first one to come up with it. And I always used to challenge my students, come on, tell me any form of power that you know of that I'm not talking about. And a coach one day says, I know a form of power that you haven't talked about. And I says, what's that? He says, ego power. I says, what? He says, I do it all the time. He says, I stroke my kids' egos. And I can get them to do lots of things that they don't want to do because I stroke their egos. And the most powerful form of power is the negative ego stroke. Mm-hmm. And I write about this in my book. But it's direct manipulation. And if you're caught doing it and they know you're manipulating them, it's a real turn off. But the negative ego stroke is you say to somebody, I don't think you can do that. You don't have the ability to do that. And they say, the hell I don't. Just watch me. I'll show you what I can do. You see how that works?
Mm-hmm.
Coaches.
It's almost like an I dare you situation.
Yes. Yeah. But you've got to do it with the right people because they can go, yeah, you're right. I can't do that. And it does the opposite of what you intended it to do. The 5th form of power is called moral power. Okay, moral power. What is the right thing to do? If you're a dad and a mom, you've got a house. Do the kids know what the right thing is to do? Do they know what the rules are? In many cases, in many homes, they have to learn what the rules are. The rules aren't written, but they learn because they got their finger slapped or because they got a punishment or whatever. They learn what rules are in the house. It would be so much easier if the parents went to the kids and say, hey, here's 3 or 5 cards. What rules do you want in this house? And you agree on the rules, the whole family, and the rules are posted. When a rule is violated, you say, you see that rule there? You didn't do it. Oh, yeah, I forgot. And the kid tends to correct. And you don't have to punish. All you got to do is remind them of what the rules are. Mm-hmm. And when I was a teacher, I had the kids make the rules for the classroom. They each filled out the cards and the rules were posted. And when the rules were violated, whose rules were they violating? Their own. Most teachers post the rules. It's their rules. So it's the teacher against the students. It's not a we thing. So there again, that's servant leadership. The way you do servant leadership. You give them control, but you don't give it up. They set the rules, and then you see that they're enforced. So
that is amazing too. You talk about that, and it all comes together when it comes to relationships as well too. That it's been the big thing in schools, like poor interpersonal communications, inability to cope with conflict, and also poor relationships in a way too that anything, love, business, parental, or friend, 4 factors come into play, and you can talk about that as well too, and why it's so important.
Yeah. We can talk about the five basic needs of all human beings. That's you, me, and everybody out there that's listening.
Uh-huh.
Even the mentally retarded have five basic needs. We can take about 5 minutes. So how much time do we have?
We got about we got some time, so go ahead with the 5 minutes here as well too. So
Okay. Here they are. Um, I'll rattle them off and then we'll go back and post roll.
okay.
Fear, anxiety, life itself, number one. Number two, happiness. Number three, control. Number four, caring. Number five, purpose. Okay. The early philosophers in the 18th century began discussing, why do people behave the way they do? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the first guy comes up with, well, they behave the way they do because they want to be alive. They don't want to be afraid. They don't want to have to deal with stress and anxiety. The next guy comes along and he says, oh, yeah, you're right. But happiness is a key reason why people behave the way they do. Everybody wants moments of happiness. So, life with no happiness is no life at all. You agree with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nietzsche, late 19th century, atheist. He says, yeah, that's right. But there's a key here. You know why people behave the way they do? They want power. Power. And of course, I described the 9 forms of power in chapter 4. He says, power gives you control. Life with no control is no life. He says, people want control. And of course, you have to think, Mike, that people's control needs varies all the way from 10 to 1 almost. There are people who have a very low need to control. As a matter of fact, they want people to tell them what to do. And then you have control freaks. On the need for control, Trump measures way up there.
Okay? That's a given.
Yeah. And so did Obama. He measured way up there too. But most leaders tend to be high on the need to control. So the crazy thing is, when I interviewed students in West Virginia, 50% of the kids go to school believing they have no control. They must sit in their seat. They must behave. They must obey the rules. They must study what they're supposed to study, and so forth. They have no control. And the least democratic organization in the entire United States, other than our prisons, is schools. Schools. Kids have no control. In many cases, teachers don't have any control. They're told what textbook they must use. They're told what chapter they must be on at any given time. They're given the test to test what they're controlled. You got these highly professional people, some with doctorate degrees and master's degrees, and they are treated like a kid. That's what's wrong with our school system. So control is the third need. Then you come to caring. And when I interviewed the kids at West Virginia, I said, what do you like about your schools? They said, the teachers. And I said, what don't you like? And they said, the teachers. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, a lot of these teachers really care about us. They'll listen to us. They'll help us. They want us to learn. They want us to succeed. And then you've got these other ones. They don't care about us. All they want is their paycheck and looking forward to retirement. And that's true.
I think you might have hit upon that before too. And of course, with today, it's just like, the more emphasis on test scores as well too. Before back then, nobody ever administered a test like a break. It's like, okay, write something for 5 minutes, draw something for 5 minutes, or recess and everything, or just rattle what's on your mind. Nowadays, it's more like on test scores. And surprisingly, the test scores, according to reports, have been quite low. And maybe you can just talk about that with, why is there so much emphasis on test scores, but end up coming up low?
Well, there are 6 reasons for low test scores, if you want to have me back on.
You're good. You're good. I'm learning a lot from you. Seriously. I mean, you're taking me to school, which is good.
It's crazy. I would go into schools in the state of West Virginia and I would say, we need to measure your school culture and climate. They says, oh, I don't have time for that. I says, why? They says, well, we got to improve our test scores.
Oh, yeah.
I says, it's kind of like going to an automobile manufacturer and you say, we want to look at how you put your engines together. And they say, well, no, we got to improve our miles per gallon. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
What all is involved in improving the miles per gallon? You've got all these aerodynamic effects. You've got tires, you've got this, you've got that and that. And if you focus on the end result, the outcome, miles per gallon or test scores, instead of what's causing it, and that's what's wrong with our school systems today. They focus on the outcome and not the input. But anyway, we talked about the fourth basic need of all human beings, caring. The fifth basic need of all human beings is purpose. Life with no purpose is no life. Muhammad Gandhi, Rick Warren, Dr. Oz, and on with the people who talk about the purpose of life. What is your purpose in life? When many people retire, their purpose in life is gone and they die.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 81 years old and I'm going strong. I ain't going to quit. My purpose in life is to improve human relations and to improve schools. And I'm not quitting. Anyway, many kids go to school with no purpose. I said, why do you go to school? When I interviewed them, they says, what do you mean? I says, why do you go to school? They says, well, we have to. I says, you don't have any other reason for going to school? No, I wouldn't. I hate school. If I didn't have to go, I wouldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
And on with what's wrong with our schools. So in book number 2, I describe how to give kids a purpose for going to school. So I have the teachers come up with 15 reasons why kids should be in school. Okay. And when the kid enrolls in that school, they get the 15 reasons and they are told, I want you to pick out 6 of the reasons why you are going to the school from the 15. Give control without giving it up. So the kid looks at the 15 reasons the teacher saying why this is why kids should be at this school. He picks out or she picks out 6, 7, 8, 9, or whatever the principal decides for that school. They pick out what they want and then they sign the contract. They sign the contract about why they are at that school. Each teacher gets that kid's contract. The parent gets that kid's contract. The kid now has a purpose for going to that school. And it gets hammered. Anyway, so those are the 5 basic reasons. And I do a lot of talk on shooters. Why do people shoot in schools? Why do people kill?
Mm-hmm.
Their basic needs are not being met. They're not happy. They don't believe they have control. They think nobody cares about them. If you think about that shooter that went into that elementary school up there in New Hampshire, was it? He believed his mom did not care about him. His mom was going to put him away. He believed the teachers didn't care about him. He wasn't happy. He didn't have control. So he got a gun.
Mm-hmm.
When you put your finger on that trigger, you got control.
And it seems to be a very, very common theme among the shooters, like with, Sandy Hook, Baltimore, and, just about even Chicago and just about everywhere all across the board. That seems to be a same theme. I think you've hit upon that. And maybe you can just wrap it up in a nutshell on, what can be done to the schools to prevent the problems and, make the schools great again. As Donald Trump would say, make America great again. In your case, make the schools great again.
Yes. And safe.
Mm-hmm. Safety, too. That is a big definite.
If 50% of the kids who go to school today are not motivated,
mm-hmm.
they're not motivated at all. They just go because they have to.
Right.
Change that and you change the school.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you could change the world as well, too. So we're here with Dr. Clete Bulach, the co-author of a couple of books. They're out right now: School Climate and Culture, Vis-a-Vis Student Learning, Keys of Collaborative Problem-Solving Responsibility. And second book, Enhancing a High-Performing School Culture and Climate, New Insights for Improving Schools. And just tell everybody, where can they get the books at?
Oh, they're on Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. If anybody wants an autographed copy, I think my email is on my website. Send me an email and I'll send you an autographed copy for $25.
Oh, that'd be great too. It's like, I'll tell everybody about it as well too. And who you consider your biggest influence in your career and education?
Well, I took a major in social psychology. It changed my life forever. There were a number of professors there. There's psychology and sociology. Sociology is the study of groups.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they behave the way they do? Psychology is the study of individuals and why do they behave the way they do. Social psych is the study of how individuals behave in groups. And that changed my life forever. Anyway.
That is amazing too. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Well, the best human behavior, and I think I commented on earlier, is listening. Of all the human behaviors that humans need to practice, and I'm one of the worst offenders, getting better at it, is I need to listen to what other people are saying. My granddaughter was here this week, and I did a lot of listening, and with my other grandkids, and with the people on the golf course. It's amazing. I play golf with maybe 40 or 50 people. It's amazing how many of the golfers never ask you a question.
Except when they yell, 4!
Yeah. But when I'm out there, I say, well, how many kids you got? Where'd you get your degree? What are your kids doing? How many grandkids you got? You got any great grand? I make it a practice to engage people in conversation and listen to what they have to say. You need to show other people that you care about them, that you want to know, that you understand, and that you are interested in their lives. And so many people don't do that at all.
Mm-hmm. And of course, makes me think about the whole golf thing. It's like the only interest is like, what club should I use, or what driver or wedge should I use? Yes. Or how do I not get it in the rough?
or instead of listening, they'll say, oh, you just shanked that shot. Oh, your backswing was awful. Oh, you hit me, and they'll tell you what you did wrong. And I'm 81 years old. You think I don't know what I did wrong? Got these people telling me what I did wrong. Oh, you stubbed that putt. Oh, you didn't stroke it, and on with openness, the two dimensions of openness, telling and listening. So many people are very open on the telling dimension, and they don't listen. Anyway.
That is something. We'll talk more about that as well, too. We'll definitely have you back on as well, too. And once again, you're the author of the 2 books, School Climate, Culture, Vis-a-Vis Student Learning, Keys of Collaborative Problem-Solving Responsibility, and the second book, Enhancing High-Performing School Culture, Climate, New Insights for Improving Schools, on Amazon. And Dr. Clete Bulach, just want to say a big thank you for your time, for being on the program. You've just been fascinating. I mean, I learned a lot from you. I have to say that. I really learned a lot from you. We'll definitely have you back on again, and do us a favor, keep us up to date, especially me. I can use more learning.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me know where I can post your show. I've got LinkedIn and 2 Facebook pages and Twitter and so forth. So it was a good show. You do a nice job, and you interact. I didn't have to do all the talking. So I appreciate your interaction.